Good evening. We're talking tonight on the subject of our tape groups. In an organization, you have a book of rules, and you have to obey those rules, even if sometimes better results could be accomplished in some other way or by some other rule. But since there cannot be rules for this one and that one, there has to be one rule, and all must obey it. In our work, where we are not organized in that sense of living by rules, it is possible to have a minimum amount of rules and at the same time be flexible, so that there are occasions when the rules can be disobeyed. To illustrate this, I have always suggested that in the conduct of our tape groups, that it be opened with a meditation, closed with a meditation, and no discussions. That is a rule that if you break it, it will not mean that you are disobeying me. It will just mean that you have no interest in a successful activity. Because it is an impossibility to have a discussion group in truth. As a matter of fact, it is impossible to discuss truth. Truth is a subject that does not lend itself to discussion. And the reason is this. Truth isn't human. It isn't something that is subject to your opinion or mine. It is not a subject on which you're entitled to an opinion any more than I am. Truth is, well, you may really say truth is God, or God is truth. And in our human experience, God or truth is revealing itself. Now, as I sit in our classwork, some of you do not realize this, but there are times when messages come through me that I never knew until that moment when it came through. We had an experience of that kind last week when I was on the platform in Portland, and a whole new principle came through of which I've never heard before. And I had to sit there listening to it coming through my lips. And since then, several of us have witnessed wonderful fruitage from that message. And that message was not subject to discussion. It was not subject to your opinion or mine. If you had heard it, probably it would have sounded strange to you, and you'd love to have discussed it with me. Well, there's nothing to discuss because I had nothing to do with it and no opinion about it. Truth coming through does not lend itself to discussion. There are many, many principles in the infinite way, and not one of them lend themselves to discussion. I myself would never discuss a single one of them with anyone. I state them. You take them or leave them. But I will have no discussion. The reason is that from the beginning of my work, the principles that have come through have proven practical, workable with me and with other students. And therefore, how can I accept any question about them? At one time, a publisher wanted to publish one of my books, and after having it read in his organization, said yes, they would love to publish it, and here are a couple of pages of corrections. My answer was, I welcome them. Just tell me how many healings this corrector is responsible for and how many years they've been practicing, so that I will know that their corrections are better than my writings. Do you not see that either the principles of the infinite way are correct, that truth itself has expressed itself, or not? If it has, you will know it by its works. If not, it will go out of existence very quickly. But I think you have all seen in this class here today, in the groups that have come to hear our teachers, just as we have witnessed last week in Seattle and Portland, after 17 years, not only that we have so many students here who have been with us from the beginning, but just think of all the additional hundreds that you have seen. And so, this message must stand not on what I think of it or what you think of it or what your hearers or students think of it, but on what it is. And therefore, if you permit a discussion on any of our tapes, you are permitting someone who has not had our years of healing work tell us that we haven't had those years of healing work. Therefore, I can prophesy. I won't forbid, but I can prophesy that those who have discussion groups will not be with us long. Those who permit discussions on this message will not be in the activity long. You know, truth is an impartation. It comes forth from the Spirit through the consciousness of an individual, and then it is received in your consciousness as a seed. If you keep it locked up in your consciousness, think about it, ponder it, meditate on it, that seed will spring forth into fruitage. Of course, if it isn't truth, it'll die stillborn. It is for this reason that many of you know that I have never permitted in any class anyone to ask a question from the floor. You may write a question and place it up here, and I will gladly answer it. But no question from out there. Why? I'm not breaking the rhythm of the impartation through me to you. Nor am I going to break your receptivity, just so that somebody may have the floor of glory for a moment. Now, this means that when a tape group work is started, that it will start as a meeting preceded by a meditation, then the tape, followed by a meditation, and good night. No tea parties, no coffee clutches, no midnight snacks. Home to ponder what has been given. Our work is in no sense a social activity. On the other hand, there is no reason why in our off hours we cannot have breakfast together or lunch together or dinner, or groups cannot have them, because that really makes for a harmonious relationship between all of us. Usually when we complete our trip in England, the students will give a tea and coffee or cakes or something, sandwiches, as a departing goodbye, aloha, whatever we call it. Very often some of us meet for a luncheon. That is quite something separate and apart from a lesson or a tape meeting. Keep the classes as free as possible from becoming discussions or coffee clutches. Here in class, as you notice, we all have to have breakfast, we all have to have lunch and dinner. Not a reason why we shouldn't have it together, separately, in groups, as we will. That still does not make a coffee clutch of it. It still doesn't make a discussion group of it. It merely makes for a companionship, a friendship. Now, a tape group may be started by a person, a student, who does not have the healing consciousness. It very often happens that way, that someone will have a tape recorder in their home and will invite friends or other students to come and hear them without any relationship to healing activity, just for the hearing of the tapes. If the student conducting that tape group is seriously a student, eventually they will develop a healing consciousness. They will be hearing tapes, they will be reading the writings, maybe attending classes. Their consciousness will be so filled with truth that sooner or later somebody in their group will say, "Can't you give me help?" And you'll find it embarrassing to say, "No, I know all about this message, but I can't prove it. I can't demonstrate it." And so you'll find, as a rule, that as you continue with a tape group, and you continue your studies, that a healing consciousness will develop. By this time, some of your group will ask about the monthly letter, and you will find it necessary to begin to teach the use of the letter. There are not too many people in the world who are actually students that can take that monthly letter and really know how to apply it to their daily living. They may read it and enjoy it. They may have an uplift from it. They may even have a healing from it. But they still do not grasp how to take these specific principles and work with them. And you'll notice in a year like this one, this entire year of 1964, the monthly letters are devoted to the healing ministry. By the end of this year, we'll have a complete textbook on infinite way healing. More specific, probably, than the infinite way itself, which merely states principles. Probably even more specific than the contemplative life, which I think is a wonderful textbook. But I'm sure the one that will be completed in 1964 will be better. There will be the specific principles and the use of them. And yet, in most cases, it will take someone who really understands the application of spiritual principles to teach members of their group how to study. And so that means that once a month or twice a month, there will have to be a session on teaching the letter. That, of course, would be an evening when there is no tape. From there on, rules become difficult, if not impossible. Because if the tape group leader has developed a healing consciousness, everything will unfold without any instructions from anyone else. In other words, as you are called upon for help and give it and have fruitage, your practice develops, and there's nothing more to it than that. Healing, practicing, letting the tapes be heard, teaching the use of the monthly letter. And that is about as far as a tape group leader can go. And yet see how impossible it is to make a rule like that, because here you are witnessing 5 of our tape group leaders who have broken all the rules by becoming practitioners and teachers and lecturers. Can you imagine my forbidding any one of these 5? Can you imagine my making a rule that would bar any one of these 5? And so you can see that we can only make rules up to and including the playing of the tapes and the starting of the healing work. After that, each one evolves in accord with their own unfoldment, attainment. The one thing that I would like to make clear is this. Because this illustrates the major revelation of the infinite way. the tapes themselves will not attract groups to you. Many students have started tape groups and found themselves with 2 or 3 or 4 students, and then none, or probably got up to 6 and then none, and finally gave up. And of course it would be very simple to say that there's something wrong with the tapes or there's something wrong with the city in which they're living. That's not true. There is neither good nor evil in this room. There is neither good nor evil in this city. Our demonstration is the activity of our state of consciousness. And an infinite way student must acknowledge this. You cannot have a larger tape group than your consciousness can attract, nor will it ever be smaller. You cannot have a larger practice, healing practice, than your consciousness can take care of, nor will it ever be smaller than that, and it makes no difference what city you are in. You would be surprised how many times I was told in the early days of this work to stay away from Chicago because there's nobody there that wants metaphysics. You'd be surprised the things I've been told about Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York. I've even been told that after the first trip to London I would never go back the second time because nobody would pay for truth over there. Well, this is our 14th trip. You see, the city has nothing to do with it. The population has nothing to do with it. The tapes have nothing to do with it. The books have nothing to do with it. It is the consciousness of the individual. That's all. You take the consciousness of the individual away from these books and these tapes, and then all you have left is paper and print and tape. Consciousness is what does the work. And so it is, there are infinite way practitioners in small and medium-sized towns, and they have about as heavy a practice as they can take care of, and sometimes greater than they feel they want to take care of. And on the other hand, we have practitioners in large cities, and they wonder if anybody in the town is sick at all. No, the basic revelation of the infinite way is that the consciousness of the individual is the secret of life. And the degree of our spiritual attainment determines the degree of the outer unfoldment. Do not forget this. If you have a healing consciousness, work will come to you from all over the world, not only from your local community, from all over the world, and there's a good reason for it. Since there is only one consciousness, if yours is a healing consciousness, it will draw unto itself from the uttermost parts of the earth. If it isn't a healing consciousness, those seeking healing will pass you by. Therefore, our entire aim is the development of our own consciousness. That is why we have no right to be human do-gooders. We have no right to want to save the world. We have no right to want to help our fellow man. Our only right is the development of our spiritual consciousness. Because when we have attained that, we have become the light, and those in darkness will find us, and then we can be of help. No one can be of help spiritually until they have the Spirit. Who would try to be a philanthropist before they had money? You can't give away what you haven't got. And you cannot share the Spirit of God until the Spirit of God is upon you, and then you can begin to share it in the measure of your attainment. We have all gone through the same experience of a very small practice in the beginning, and sometimes a very small income, and sometimes none. That is not a new experience for any of us who have had experience. But with study, meditation, with a dedication to the development of our consciousness, the practice grows, the student body grows, the income grows. All of the outer experience conforms to our state of consciousness. So it is that those who start tape groups and do not have the healing consciousness should be willing to serve those who come, regardless of how few, but should at the same time be preparing themselves for the higher attainments so that eventually they can start teaching the monthly lesson, and then later go as much further as their consciousness will carry them. And be assured of this: no one can stop you. Be assured, if I made any rule that would in any wise stop the progress of any one of our teachers, they would go right on developing themselves, if not inside the infinite way, outside the infinite way, because you cannot control consciousness. You cannot make rules for consciousness. An individual will break out of any rule the moment their consciousness is prepared for it. But always remember, by their fruits ye shall know them. In other words, when we start evolving, it must be as the fruitage of our developed consciousness. In our work, we take what is sometimes called a very narrow-minded view of things. Many times it has been said that Joel has a single-track mind, and I'm happy to plead guilty to it. I believe in the message of the infinite way and its principles, and I'm not interested in any other message. I'm not saying that there aren't other right messages, but they do not interest me. The principles of the infinite way satisfy me, and until I have a feeling of lack or limitation in them, I will be abiding in them. And so it is that very narrow-mindedly I tell our tape group leaders, teachers, and students there must be no literature and no tapes except the message of the infinite way, and no exceptions to that rule. Oh, I know how narrow-minded it is. I do. I know how single-tracked it is, but that's the way I am. If I ever feel convinced of something better than the infinite way, I will adopt it before you do. Let us then remember this. If students or patients come to us for infinite way healing or teaching, let us be very sure that that is all that we give them. If by any chance that doesn't meet the need for them, set them free to find any other help that will. But do not try yourself to combine 2 or 3 or recommend 2 or 3. In this way, and only in this way, the principles can be kept intact. There are many people who misunderstand the rule on this subject in the Christian Science movement and who criticize them. Criticism is not justifiable. The rule is that no Christian Science practitioner should use any other textbook in their healing work. That's an intelligent rule. And as long as that practitioner is practicing Christian Science, there are the principles plainly stated. And when they can no longer work fruitfully with that, they have the right to seek further. No one has the right to take from us the privilege of seeking further, for further light and further wisdom. But while we are seeking and searching, we should not bring to our patient or student anything other than that of the banner under which we are sailing. I would never criticize an infinite way student, practitioner, or teacher that heard of or discovered some teaching that they wanted to investigate. I wouldn't put blinders on anybody. I'm too firm a believer in absolute, complete freedom. Search and seek as far as you like. But keep your searching and seeking to yourself until you have found something. Then sail under that banner. But do not confuse patients and students by introducing 2 or 3 different teachings to them. And do not let yourself be confused. So I say to our teachers and practitioners, I have no rule and never will make a rule about what you shall read. But I hope everybody will respect my wishes in keeping all literature outside of our work except the infinite way in our practice, in our healing work and teaching work. And any time that you find anything that represents something better for you, adopt it. I have no rule against that, but do not do it under the banner of the infinite way. I would like to feel that if I send out a practitioner list recommending an infinite way practitioner, that whoever goes to those practitioners will be given the message of the infinite way. Do you not see how impossible it is to make any further rules than these? The question comes up of financing. How shall you finance? Or be financed? Well, this is such an individual experience that it is impossible to make a rule. Each one must determine that for themselves. In our work conducting the message of the infinite way, we have at all times refused to allow any one or any group of individuals to finance the activities of the infinite way. We have been offered large sums of money. But what would it amount to? Come to a city and say, oh, we're not charging you anything. Just come to the class. And then instead of just you coming to the class, we would have a whole city of curiosity seekers or loaves and fishes seekers or healing seekers, and there'd be no such thing as specific, concrete work. And therefore, rather than be supported by a small group of rich people, we prefer to take our stand in the fact of I and the Father are one, and all that the Father hath is mine, and let it unfold. And then, when there must be a charge, as is necessary in teaching work, for that very reason of keeping the class down to serious students, then to make the charge that seems right under the circumstances. When our work began, our charge for a closed class was $25. As the expenses mounted, this had to be raised to $35 and then to $50. But if you notice, this week, we will have virtually a full class this week, if not more than a full class, and the price is $15. Why? There's no guarantee that the next one won't be 20 or the next one won't be 50, but I cannot have a rule. I have to work in accord with the present unfoldment. And it was very evident that there would be enough in this class, enough students in this class, so that it would have been ridiculous to charge a larger amount. Do you see what I am trying to say to you? That we are not working by rules, nor are we working to attain a fortune of money, or are we trying to put a value on truth. We are merely trying to keep the activity in such a way that we do not have a small group of rich people sitting at the right hand of God and all the rest beggars at the feet of the Master. Each one of us is a participating unit in the entire activity of the infinite way. And whether you are paying for a class or whether you are making a contribution, and whatever the amount may be, it is a part of the activity of the infinite way. Therefore, how can I make a rule for you? It would seem to me that if you have a tape group, that you would make it clear to those who participate, not those who come the first time just to hear what it's like, but those who are going to constitute a regular group, that you would make it clear that a machine must be bought and maintained, that tapes must be bought and maintained, and therefore that this is a group activity. Some may leave the group, but then the tapes will be there for the next ones or for the next group. When it comes to teaching the message of the infinite way, or the letters, or doing teaching work, there again, you have noticed here with our teachers that there has been no fee set for their work. It has been voluntary. And there is a reason. They have had no expense involved in their work. They were coming here for class anyhow, so they cannot say they had to pay their expenses to get here or stay here. Now, if, however, they were invited to another city, that would change the entire picture, and they would have the right to say about how many do you think would attend, and then set the fee in accord with what expenses could be, and so forth and so on. But who could make a rule about that? It is an utter impossibility. Each one will have to be guided by the spirit within them, and as long as they do not succumb to greed or avarice, the fees will be held to a moderate amount, and yet they will prove to be abundant. There are tapes that feature a great deal of meditation in them, which prove to be very satisfactory tapes, not only for the younger students, but occasionally for the older students to get back into an atmosphere of meditation. There are tapes containing specific principles of the infinite way, which means healing and living principles, and then there are tapes that have specific healing principles alone. In the catalog of tapes, you can find, by the titles, anything you wish, right up to mysticism. One thing that I urge on our students, which tape group leaders must urge on their students, is this. We are not going to get to heaven by somebody else's demonstration, nor are we going to get there in our spare time. And therefore, our tape group leaders should encourage the students to study the monthly letter, to read the writings, but not read them, actually study them, to attend meetings when the opportunity presents, you yourself have discovered that you have had to work pretty hard in study and meditation. You've had to be very faithful in the attendance of classes and lectures to get to whatever state of consciousness you have attained. Now you know that. Nobody but you yourself knows what measure of dedication and devotion you have had to put into this message to arrive at where you are. Do you believe that anyone is going to do it in any other way, or any easier way? And you know better. Therefore, if you have the real interest of the student at heart, the more you can make them realize the value of the study of the message in all of its forms. And certainly, as you know now, we have a wide variety of forms: the books, the tapes, the monthly letter, the parents and grandparents letter, the 17-week study course, the tape recording study course, the Bible study course. Well, now, lest someone may think that all of this is for my benefit and my enrichment, let me advise you to the contrary. I can assure you that whatever measure of prosperity comes my way comes through healing and teaching. And it has been that way from the beginning of my ministry. Whether more books or less books are sold will not change my status in life. Whether monthly letters are sold or not, or tapes, will not change my status. There is no commercial or mercenary attitude or action in the entire message of the infinite way. Those who know the amount that has been and is given without charge will know something about that. Therefore, you need never feel that because you are recommending books or letters or tapes, that you are being commercial, or that you are doing it for a commercial reason. You are doing it for one reason only. You know the price that you have paid in study and meditation, and you know that no one is going to get it for any less. What more can be said about tapes and tape groups? I don't know of anything. Because if you have a tape group in your home and it outgrows your home, you have to go to an office or an office building or a hotel building or a study center. That is something that no one can make a rule about. You have to follow the way your demonstration leads. You and the group with which you work have to determine how the meetings are conducted. You yourself have to know the measure of your understanding of the nature of supply. If you are looking to your patients or students for it, you are praying amiss. Even though it undoubtedly may come from that direction, you have no right to outline that or expect it. It is for this reason that in 35 years of a healing ministry, I have never set a price on healing work, have never sent out a bill or a statement, have never requested a fee. And believe me that in the years when I had nothing but a practice, no teaching work and no writings, the Spirit did provide abundantly, with 12 baskets full left over, after I had the experience that revealed the secret of supply. Before that, I suffered lack just as much as anybody else has, and limitation. And that's why I know that it is only as we realize a principle that we can demonstrate it. Knowing the principle, being able to recite it, will not demonstrate it for us. It is only when, in some moment, realization comes. From that moment on, the realization of some specific principle or the realization of the actual presence, something specific must take place, after which we can say, no weapon that is formed against me shall prosper. Always then be willing to place the responsibility where it belongs, on your state of consciousness. Your state of consciousness determines the outward picture. And if the outward picture is not yet harmonious or fulfilled, just remember that there is only one remedy: the further development of your consciousness, the attainment of a greater awareness of this indwelling spirit. There is the point that many metaphysicians, those trained in metaphysics, are apt to overlook. They are apt to believe that because they know the statements of truth, that is it. And then later they find that is far from it. It is not knowing the statements of truth. It is the attainment of the actual consciousness of truth. This determines the nature of the outer demonstration. It is much like saying God with us and going out into battle and finding God isn't there at all. We're shot. Reciting God with us, reciting omnipresence, reciting omnipotence, doesn't make it so, doesn't bring the experience to us. There must be the God experience. There must be the actual experience of the Christ. There must be the dawning in consciousness of the Spirit of God, the touch of God, the finger of God, the realization of God. It must be an experience before it can be lived. Otherwise, we're living on the husks of words, statements, preachings, all of which is valueless. In our work, the measure of our success is the healing ministry. I'm speaking now of our work as teachers and practitioners, tape group leaders. The healing ministry. If someone comes to us to hear truth and we voice it, and then they say, give me help, and we can't, it's too bad. It is too bad. It should not happen. We should be willing to stay in this city until we are endowed from on high. Then go out in the Spirit of the Lord. Then go out under the grace of God, because then you can say, there is no law. Moses gave us the law. Christ Jesus did away with it. He took away 9 out of the 10 commandments. What need have we of law, and what fear have we of law when we are under grace? And we are not under grace by reading books or hearing tapes or going to classes. Books, tapes, classes are the tools with which we work until we arrive at the consciousness of grace. Once we have attained the grace, we are no longer under the law. There is no law of limitation. There is no lack, no limitation. There's no law to operate on us or in us or through us, because we have risen above the law into grace. Not wholly. None of us has fully attained. But in proportion as the Spirit of God is upon us, do we come more and more under grace, and this means less and less under law. Now, you have witnessed that in your experience, that we are certainly freer of the sins of the world and the diseases of the world and the false appetites of the world than the world itself. Nobody has made a rule for us that we shouldn't smoke or shouldn't drink. But I wonder if you know how few there would be in our entire class here today who ever think of smoking or drinking. How few. Why? It's not a sin in our human life. But we're not under the law of that desire. Grace has freed us. So it is. You know as well as I do how much less your doctor bills and hospital bills and medicine bills have been since you have come under grace. And then you have found later that even your practitioner bills grew less. Because as you continue in the study and meditation and more of the Spirit takes over, you are less and less under the influence of this world. And it is for this reason that we witness so many thousands of families free of the problems of juvenile delinquency, free of the problems of alcoholism. Have you ever met an alcoholic in the Infinite Way? Or a drug addict? I don't think so. How many problems of juvenile delinquency have you come across in your entire Infinite Way experience? This is not because God has chosen us to be freer than other people. It is because in proportion as the Spirit of God is upon us, we have found our freedom. And it isn't a freedom from anything. It is a freedom in Spirit, a freedom in grace, under grace. We have no patent on it. It is true of everyone that has been touched by the Spirit of God. It is not a phenomenon of the Infinite Way. It is a phenomenon of the spiritual universe. And all who live under spiritual teachings. Be guided by the Spirit. And then some of you will say, how do we know when it is the Spirit? And my answer is the fruitage. If you are having fruitage of a spiritual nature, of a constructive nature, of a positive nature, you are being guided. If the fruitage isn't there, you have right to question it. And the answer to that is study more, meditate more, go deeper and deeper into consciousness. And so just for a final word, with the advent of the Infinite Way, for the first time in the known history of the world, we are delving into the realm of consciousness. It has never before been done so far as we have any written records. We are delving into consciousness. And we are bringing forth the secrets that are buried there. Secrets that were known in Egypt in the time of the wisdom schools. Secrets that were known as the wise men of Greece went to Egypt to study, went back to Greece to teach. Wisdoms that were known in Persia and Arabia, and in a very small section of the Holy Lands, among the groups of the Essenes. Here these wisdoms were known, and they were studied, they were practiced by the small groups that constituted the wisdom schools, but this never reached the public. So far as is known, there has been no attempt in the last 1700 years to bring forth the fruits of consciousness, The mind has been studied and is being studied, but because neither the psychologist nor the psychiatrist know the primal secret of mind, they are not getting their answers. Therefore, at the present time, psychiatry and psychology is a failure. Someday it will be a great success. That will be when they discover the primal secret. Because of our delving into consciousness, we know that secret. Because we are delving into consciousness, it is like being up 100,000 feet in the air and being able to look down and then study the clouds or the air or the atmosphere. From the heights you can look down and learn. You cannot look up. That is why Darwin made the blunder that will forever brand his work as a failure with all of his good intents. You cannot measure a man from his body back to the seed and discover the secret of man, nor can you study the seed and carry it forward to the man and learn the secret of man, because the secret of man is in the invisible that formed the seed and then the man. And unless you can get back into the invisible, there is no way to know man.